was hoping we could talk about pacts and petitions. I had a few questions asked about that specific topic over the past couple of weeks from different people, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to, to discuss the process. Um, and Pacts and petitions are kind of a funny thing because they're not like a lot of people, and myself included at a certain point, we tend to look at like the idea of ceremony and doing things in segments or as separate pieces when the whole process is the ceremony. Like if you're going out and collecting dirt or leaves or whatever you're going out to do uh, to achieve your goal, that's a ceremony, right? So when I go out to collect leaves for a bath, just for example, when I go out to collect leaves, like from that moment, I'm out there, I'm talking to the spirits literally from the moment I walk out the door. Okay, I'm talking to the spirits. I'm stating what my intentions are, and when I find those leaves I want to work with, I immediately start talking to the local spirit that is there. Okay, and I'm speaking directly to the plant, and I'm telling what the intention is and why I'm collecting from them, like what their leaves are going to be used for. And and if I'm doing this for magic, it's the exact same thing. So let's say I'm going to go do the love work, right? And there's key ingredients that I use is a plant called vervain, which most of you are familiar with because I've been talking about that plant for years. Worked with vervain, another plant, either China berry or rain tree. They're both so similar in the way they function and they look very similar. You have to have a trained eye to spot the differences between the two of them. They grow on these kind of long, whimsical stalks that tend to go like straight up into these really little canopies. The only difference is the rain tree has it makes these little paper sachets that they sprinkle their seeds from, versus the China berries that produce like grape-like berries that fall to the earth. They both function in the exact same way. Um, they're prized plants for magic work because they grow so quickly. They tend to overtake everything. Okay, they are considered invasive, yes, but they have this energy to them, and they're very masculine in that vital energy and the way they work. And we contrast that or complement it with the vervain, which is a very feminine plant, which also does the same thing. It takes over everywhere that it grows. If you plant, it's like planting mint in your garden. If you plant vervain in your garden, even if that plant, if it's got about a year there, even if, say, something killed all your plants, if you wait a few months and you get back to spring, I can guarantee you're going to have more vervain popping up, not just in the area where you planted it, but all over your garden. So, when I'll go out and with the intention of collecting these plants, I will speak to the plants themselves, like, oh man, you're going to make this person so sweet and so hot for this other person, and so on and so forth. And I say that as I'm collecting the leaves, and I tell them, hey, I'm coming to you because you have the best medicine. That's why I'm here collecting your leaves. You have the absolute best medicine, and no one has better medicine than you. So once I've collected those leaves, right, and I go back to my temple and I start processing them as part of the ceremony, okay, I'm still talking to them. Now, what does this all have to do with pacts and petitions? This is the pact that I'm forming. This is the petition that I'm working, okay? I am telling these spirits exactly what my intentions are and what I want them to do. And I haven't even gotten to the written portion of the pact, okay? So when we construct pacts, everything, if you were to see my temple, everything in there, there is some sort of written pact that has to go with it, or written petition, right? Whether it's a psalm, or it's like a poem for a spirit or something like that. Like everything has a written petition. When I feed my spirits, there's a written petition. I never just put out food. I always have a written petition. And those petitions, excuse me, those petitions, right, they all follow basically the same formula. There will be some minor changes depending on the spirit, because certain spirits have certain formulas, and they're addressed in certain ways, but that's getting super particular to the tradition that I practice. Okay. But generally, they all follow the same formula. Uh, we invoke the ancestors, we make sure that the liminal spirits are addressed. We talk about Legba and Kafu, if Kafu is appropriate for that one. And then we sometimes will address our lineage, like the particular initiatory lineage, and although not always. And then the Metet, like our Metet, and because they are basically like our personal liminal spirit, and any other loi that's relevant in what we're trying to accomplish. Once all those forces have been invoked, once the ancestral and the natural forces have been invoked, then we spell out our desires. Okay. And generally, when I write a pact or a petition, I keep it open enough so that even if I want to get out of it, I can get out of it easily enough. And also that I'm not constraining the nature of the spirits to behave in a particular fashion, which might slow them down. If you give too much instruction to a spirit, you might actually slow it down in your written petition. If you instead say, "Hey, I want these people to be sweet to each other. I want them to get along always. I want them to, make love to each other," things like that. I'll just use love as an example. It's just one of the things that's on my, most recent works I do, and the most work I do is love. And whatever it may be, I keep my demands broad, so that the spirits have the freedom to work within the constraints. Um, when like and this is true for no matter what I do. If I'm doing something good, if I'm doing something bad, like, hey, if I want a spirit to do something bad to somebody, I'll say, hey, I want you to do bad things to this person, and usually I stipulate, but don't kill them, right? I want bad things to happen to them, but don't kill them, because I don't want the karma of something like that. But I want someone to learn a lesson. So I don't sit there and tell them what to do. I just let them be creative. You'd be surprised how creative spirits can be when you give them the freedom of creativity. Um, so yeah, but getting back to what I'm trying to say in this is that the process of petitions and pacts begins with your first intention. The moment you step outside of your temple to collect the things that you want, and Brandon actually addressed this when he's talking about items having a history and a relationship with them, and this is what I'm talking about. This is building a rapport with a spirit, right? So that you have a history to work from. When I go to collect leaves for cleanings, maybe I might tincture them or whatever I plan to do with them. I tend to go to the same general areas, so that I'm always dealing with the same spirits, because then we have a rapport. I've places I collect leaves from. I've been going there, some of them for years, and I know those spirits very well. And when I work with them, I get very good results. Nikki is asking, you mentioned not wanting bad karma. Would that karma also harm the spirit who did the action too, or just yourself? The spirits, they don't have karma. Um, they're free of the constraints of cause and effect. We can, however, create karma for ourselves depending on how we go about doing specific types of works. If you are, uh, you could get karma that you don't want by helping somebody. Okay, because that person may have a spirit that feels justified in being harmful to them, and when you try to intervene on their behalf, suddenly there's a blowback that occurs, and that blowback, it's actually a spirit that you tampered with, and that is basically karma. It's the cause and the effect. That's why we divine before we do anything, and I don't just. It's another reason why we don't work for free, because I have helped people that were having problems with spirits, and suddenly my money stops after I help them because like maybe they were very sick and they had cancer, and call upon the spirits, heal them, and then suddenly my money's dead for like 2, 3 months. So we have to sometimes do things to mitigate the karma, like financially, to make sure that, because that's usually the first thing spirits will go after is your finances. Sometimes they go after your health. And that's another thing you have to be careful of. So when you help other people, um, you want to do it with caution. You want to make sure that you're not like basically aiding someone that has brought something upon themselves. You know, there are people that go out and they do things like ghost hunting, disturb the dead, and they get sick, right? And they have a ghost that feels justified in being harmful to them. And now you're sitting there intervening, you're driving off this spirit, you're doing an exorcism, and suddenly your health, takes a turn for the worse while your client is now feeling so much better. Okay. That's what I mean by karma. Okay. And another, what I also mean is that if you go on the offensive for someone, their own spirits can become offensive towards you. Make sense?